Hello and welcome back to another Gundam review. Today we're taking a look at the high-grade build fighters Gunpla Mafia's GM, otherwise known as the Jim Jim, which is what I will be referring to it as for the rest of the review because it's easier. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched build fighters. I have no idea what the lore behind the Jim Jim is, but I will say this is one of the best looking GM units that's ever been released, in my opinion. Anyway, let's get into the review. Alright, getting into things. Let's start off with the articulation. As for usable articulation, the head can look up pretty far, down pretty far, full 360, though it's a little bit janky. The back of the head catches on the collar a little bit at certain angles, but it can spin. Might as well get this out of the way. This can rock back and forth slightly. Something interesting about the chest is it can split in order to get the arm to move more forward. Usually you'd only use one of usually god damn it. Usually you'd only use one of these. The arm can go up more than 90 degrees, though can't quite pull off a final shooting pose. Full 360 at the upper arm. Elbow can bend pretty well. Ball joint at the wrist, and also a hinge for even more movement. A ball joint, and there was one of the back thrusters. They're not that bad, honestly. As long as you're just leaving it on your shelf, they're not going to fall out, but they do get knocked off easily. There we go. You get slight side to side at this ball joint, but it's mostly backwards and forwards, and there it goes again. It's only falling off because I'm messing with it. Alright, let's see if I can keep it on for the rest of the articulation. Another ball joint at the waist, which allows you to get more side to side. And it just came off. Don't worry about that. The side skirts have slight up and down. Also, they're hinged far back rather than in the center, which is interesting. The front skirts are on ball joints. The back skirt is solid. You can get easily full splits up to about there. The hips can rock slightly to get up to a fairly decent kick. Bring this down again. Not very far back, but that's not a big deal. Pretty good bend at the knee. The ankle armor can move separately. This far forward, this far back. Pretty good tilt either way. So yeah, generally pretty excellent posability. On to accessories, and the Jim Jim As a very standard loadout for a grunt suit, just the shield, beam sabers, beam saber effects, and a beam spray gun. I should also take the time to point out that there are 3 different head options for this mobile suit. I haven't bothered cutting the other 2 out because I don't plan on using them, but this is a review, so I'll at least mention them. They do basically look exactly like this. Anyway, showing off the accessories in a bit more detail. Let's start with the shield. It's probably the most interesting piece. A modification of the classic shield with the cross coming out past the end into kind of a piercing weapon. Also a very interesting attachment in that there's a peg on the back of the arm. I should also mention there are a bunch of 3mm points all over this guy, including panels in the arms and in the legs. I'm not going to be removing them because if you take them off too much, they get loose and will fall out. But, you know, you leave them in, they're not going to fall out. It's fine. Just peg that in. Bring out the handle. And it's fairly secure. If you don't want it to be holding the handle, it can still hold the pose, but it is nowhere near as stable. Now, the beam sabers can be stored on the inside of the shield on either side. You could store both. And I should take this opportunity to show off the beam effect and the fact that these hands do not like to hold the beam sabers. Not very tightly anyway. They will fall out if they're at any sort of downward angle. You can always fix that with a tiny piece of blue tack, but anyway. The other beam saber is meant to be stored on the backpack. I should also take the time to point out that these are also 3mm ports, so you can store the shield on the back, which is nice. The beam spray gun is fairly basic, just 2 pieces of plastic sandwiched together. Just remove the back of the hand, slide the handle in, replace the back of the hand, which for some reason I always have trouble with on these specific hands. They just don't like to line up, I guess. And yeah, there. Now there is a hole, and you would think it would be able to hold this. I suppose if you drilled a hole inside, it would. Or you could cut off the peg, and it would probably wedge itself in there. Kind of odd they didn't think of that, but, you know. There are other mobile suits that do have holes on the end of the rifle that are compatible with beam effects. Though at the very least, you can have the Jim with all of its equipment, minus the beam effects, obviously, on your shelf, which is nice. To wrap this review up, final thoughts. This is an excellent kit. It's one of the best versions of the gym that's been released, in my opinion. If you haven't gotten this yet, if you're not into high grades, or if you're just getting into the hobby, or if you just haven't thought about it, I would absolutely recommend getting this kit. It's genuinely an excellent high grade. It's one of the better high grades that came out in the Build Fighters line. Articulation is excellent. The posability isn't hampered by any of the equipment. The loadout it comes with may be a little bit basic, but the point of the Build Fighters line was customization. I myself have given it the beam carbine from the 24th Century Weapons kit because I like the look of it a lot more than the spray gun, and the customization options are fairly good out of the box considering the multiple heads. Anyway, that's about it for this review. See you guys next time. Happy building.